America has dropped 9,000 bombs on Iran. 9,000. And Iran's response, Iran's actual response, was not to surrender, was not to beg, was not to wave a white flag. Iran opened a business, a toll booth, right, in the middle of the most important shipping lane on planet Earth. And this week, Iran's parliament is voting to make it permanent law. Now, let me give you the number that nobody, and I mean nobody in mainstream media is giving you. Because when I do the math on this toll booth, the number I get is so extraordinary that it completely flips everything you thought you understood about who is winning this war. Stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you're going to look at this war completely differently. And more importantly, you're going to understand what this means for your money, your savings, and the world you're going to be living in for the next 10 years. Let us begin. So let me start with a question, a simple question. What is the Strait of Hormuz? Most people will say, oh, it is a body of water. A narrow passage between Iran and Oman, geopolitically important. Yes, no. The Strait of Hormuz is not a body of water. The Strait of Hormuz is a cash register, the biggest cash register on Earth. And right now, Iran is the one standing behind the counter. Here are the facts. And I want you to listen carefully because these facts are being reported individually by Reuters, Bloomberg, NBC News, Lloyd's List, all of the major outlets. But nobody's putting them together. Nobody is doing the actual arithmetic. That is what we're going to do today. Before this war started, before February 28th, 2026, approximately 110 ships were passing through the Strait of Hormuz every single day. Every single day, 110 ships. Oil tankers, gas carriers, cargo vessels, container ships. Because this strait is the only exit for the oil of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, Qatar, and Iraq. There is no alternative route. If you want Gulf energy, you go through Hormuz. Now, since the war began, what has happened to that traffic? It has collapsed. Lloyd's List Intelligence, which is the most respected maritime tracking firm in the world, reported this week that the number of ships transiting the strait has fallen from 110 per day to fewer than 10 per day, a 90% collapse. Right now, nearly 2,000 vessels are stranded on both sides of the strait. 2,000 ships sitting there, waiting, burning fuel costs, hemorrhaging insurance premiums, going nowhere. But here's a part that nobody is connecting. Iran did not just close the strait. Iran did not just say nobody passes. That would actually be less dangerous economically for Iran. What Iran did is far more clever, far more strategic, and far more profitable. Iran said, you can pass, but you have to pay us, and you have to pay us in Chinese yuan. Let me explain exactly how this operates, because when you understand the mechanics, you understand why this is not just a wartime tactic. This is a new global institution being built in real time. According to Lloyd's List Intelligence, which I will keep quoting because their analysis this week is extraordinary. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, has set up what they call a de facto toll booth regime in the Strait of Hormuz. Here's how it works step by step. If you are a ship captain, let us say you are a South Korean tanker carrying crude oil from Kuwait back to South Korea, you used to just sail straight through the middle of the strait on the internationally recognized shipping lane. Automatic, smooth, normal. That route is now effectively closed. The new route, the only safe route, goes north around an island called Larak Island. And crucially, that route passes directly through Iran's territorial waters, through waters that Iran legally controls. So if you want to use that route, you must submit your vessel information to what Lloyd's List calls approved Iranian intermediaries. Approved intermediaries, you submit your cargo manifest. Your crew list, your destination, your owner, details, all of it goes to the IRGC's Hormozgan Provincial Command for what the reports describe as, and I want you to hear this word, geopolitical vetting. Geopolitical vetting, the IRGC is deciding ship by ship which countries are their friends and which countries are their enemies. China passes, India currently in talks, Malaysia passes, Egypt passes, Japan refused to pay. So Japan's ships are stranded. South Korea agreed to negotiate. So their ships can pass. America and its closest allies not passing. And if you're approved, you get a code, an IRGC escort vessel accompanies you through the strait. and you pay, according to an Iranian lawmaker speaking directly to media this week. This is not a rumor. This is a sitting member of Iran's parliament, Mohammad-Reza Rezaei Kuchi, speaking on record. The fee is as high as $2 million per ship. $2 million per ship, per transit. And the payment, according to Lloyd's List, the payments that have been confirmed so far are settled in Chinese yuan, processed through Chinese maritime services, companies acting as intermediaries. Running through China's alternative banking system called CIPS, the Cross-Border Interbank Payment System, which is China's answer to SWIFT. And Lloyd's List analysts noted this week that CIPS transactions in March 2026 are at the highest level ever recorded, higher than any point in the past year. That is not a coincidence. All right, now I want to do something that I find remarkable. I want to do arithmetic, simple arithmetic, the kind of arithmetic that mainstream media, for some reason, refuses to do on your behalf. Ready? Before the war, 110 ships per day through Hormuz fee per ship, $2 million. Let us be conservative. Let us say Iran is only processing 30 ships per day through the toll booth system, not 110, not even 50, just 30, because they are being selective. They are doing their geopolitical vetting. 30 ships times $2 million equals $60 million per day. $60 million per day times 365 days equals $21.9 billion per year. And that is a conservative case. The case where Iran only lets through 30 ships per day. Now let us look at Iran's entire annual military budget. The total cost of Iran's entire army, navy, air force, missiles, drones, proxies across the entire region. The entire military apparatus of the Islamic Republic, $10 billion per year. So at just 30 ships per day, the toll booth generates double Iran's entire military budget every year, automatically, without firing a single additional missile. And Iran is also selling its own oil through the Strait simultaneously. CNN reported earlier this month that Iran has been authorizing tankers to pass through if the oil cargo is denominated in Chinese yuan. Iran exported 140 million barrels of oil that America tried to unsanction just last month. The oil keeps flowing, the money keeps coming. Now, let me show you the other side of this equation, because this is the part that will shake you. America has spent approximately $200 billion on this war. Trump requested that from Congress, $200 billion in exchange for what? The Strait of Hormuz is still closed to most traffic. Iran's oil is still flowing. Iran's toll booth is growing more formalized by the day. And Iran's parliament is this week, as we are filming this, passing legislation to make the toll a permanent legal sovereign institution. Let me repeat that. America spent $200 billion. Iran is making $20 billion a year in perpetuity, legally backed by parliamentary law. That is not winning a war, that is losing a war and paying your enemy's salary on the way out. Now, here's the part that I believe almost nobody in Western media has fully connected. And I want you to hear this very carefully. Why can America not simply sanction Iran for running this toll booth? America sanctions everything. America has sanctioned Russia, China, Venezuela, North Korea. America weaponizes the dollar as a matter of policy. So why not just sanction Iran for this? The answer is this, and this is what makes Iran's strategy so extraordinarily clever. The payments go through Chinese maritime companies. Chinese intermediaries process on China's CIPS banking system in Chinese yuan. So for America to sanction the toll booth, for America to shut down the payment mechanism, America would have to sanction Chinese banks, Chinese financial institutions, Chinese companies. And sanctioning Chinese companies means starting a financial war with China simultaneously while you are already fighting a military war with Iran, while your national debt is at $39 trillion, while your economy is already under pressure from existing trade tensions with Beijing. Think about what America is facing right now: an active war with Iran, ongoing trade conflict with China, $39 trillion in debt, oil at over $107 per barrel. And now the payment system funding the enemy is protected behind China's financial architecture. This is what I mean when I say Iran has built something more than a toll booth. Iran has built a business protected by the most powerful shield on earth. China's financial system, China's geopolitical interest in cheap Iranian oil, and China's desire to expand the use of the yuan in international trade. Iran is not just making money. Iran is doing the work of de-dollarization for China. Every ship that pays in yuan is one more ship that does not need US dollars to move energy. Every CIPS transaction is one more transaction that bypasses SWIFT, bypasses the dollar system, bypasses the mechanism of American financial power. America dropped 9,000 bombs, and the bombs did not stop this because you cannot bomb a payment system. Now, I want to give you a historical comparison because history always gives us the clearest picture of where things are heading. Think about the Suez Canal. In 1956, Egypt nationalized the Suez Canal. Britain and France were furious. They considered it a violation of international law. They actually invaded Egypt militarily to try to take it back. America told them to stop, and they stopped, and Egypt kept the canal. And what happened after that? Egypt built the Suez Canal Authority. And for the past 70 years, Egypt has been collecting tolls from every ship that passes through, every container, every oil tanker, every cargo vessel going between Europe and Asia. Egypt collects a fee right now. The Suez Canal earns Egypt approximately $10 billion per year, guaranteed every year forever. That is the model Iran is copying. That is exactly what Iranian officials have said this week. One Iranian lawmaker said explicitly, and I'm paraphrasing, "We provide security for this strait. It is natural that ships should pay us transit fees." And here's what I want you to notice about that logic. It is the same logic Egypt used in 1956. We built this, we secure it, you pay us. The difference is this: Egypt's canal was built by Egypt. The Strait of Hormuz was not built by Iran. It is a natural waterway. International law says it must remain open to free navigation. The UN Convention on the Law of the Sea says this explicitly. But here's the uncomfortable truth that international lawyers are already discussing. Iran does not care. And more importantly, Iran has the military capacity to enforce its claim regardless of what international law says. The IRGC has drones, it has missiles, it has speedboats. It attacked 18 ships in the first 3 weeks of this war. And it has demonstrated very clearly that any ship that does not comply with its system faces consequences. International law is enforced by power. And right now, in this 21-mile stretch of water, Iran has the power. Let me now step back. And let me be very honest with you about something. When this war started on February 28, 2026, the stated American objective was destroy Iran's military capacity, force Iran to surrender, and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Let us assess each of those objectives against the current reality. Destroy Iran's military capacity. America and Israel have struck Iran over 9,000 times. Iran's Navy commander was killed. Major Iranian air bases were hit. Nuclear facilities were struck. And yet, right now, the IRGC is still vetting ships in the Strait of Hormuz, still escorting approved vessels, still collecting $2 million per transit. If the military capacity was destroyed, nobody told the IRGC force Iran to surrender. Iran has put forward 5 conditions for ending the war. Condition number 1, listen to this. Condition number 1 is formal international recognition of Iran's sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is not negotiating from weakness. Iran is negotiating from the position of a country that has just received something it could never have gotten through peaceful diplomacy. It got the world to acknowledge that it controls the strait. Reopen the Strait of Hormuz. As of this filming, fewer than 10 ships per day are transiting. Nearly 2,000 vessels are stranded. Oil is at $107 per barrel. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said this week on record, this war is a catastrophe for the world's economies. That is not reopened. Now, let me give you the Iran scorecard. Iran entered this war under heavy sanctions. Iran's oil exports were restricted. Iran's access to global financial markets was limited. Iran had limited hard currency income. 1 month later, Iran's oil is flowing through the strait to China in exchange for yuan payments. Iran has unsanctioned Russian oil moving through the corridor. Iran is earning $2 million per ship in transit fees. CIPS transactions are at record highs. Iran's parliament is formalizing a permanent toll into law. And Iran's foreign policy demand, sovereignty over Hormuz, has become the central issue in ceasefire negotiations. This is not a country that lost. Now, I want to talk to you directly because you are not watching this video for an academic analysis. You are watching because you want to know what this means for your life. Here's the reality. Oil is at $107 per barrel as we film this. Before the war, it was around $75. That is a 43% increase. Every percentage point increase in oil prices flows directly into everything you buy. Gasoline, heating food. Because food is grown using fertilizers made from natural gas. Food is transported by trucks running on diesel. Food is packaged in plastics derived from petroleum. Everything you consume has oil in it. A 43% increase in oil prices does not translate to a 43% increase in your grocery bill. It compounds through the supply chain. By the time it reaches your plate, it is felt across everything. And here is the scenario that should concern you most. Iran has formally demanded recognition of sovereignty over Hormuz as a condition to end this war. America has rejected that demand, which means this war does not end quickly, which means oil stays high, which means every week this continues, the cost of everything you own goes up. Now, let me add the dollar angle, because this is where it truly gets serious. The transit fees are being collected in yuan, not dollars. The oil flowing through Iranian oil, some Iraqi oil, some that gets rerouted is being priced in yuan. Every transaction that goes through CIPS instead of SWIFT is a transaction that does not need US dollars. Every ship that pays its toll in yuan is a small brick being laid in the foundation of a parallel financial system. None of this kills the dollar tomorrow. I want to be very clear about that. The dollar is not collapsing next week, but the direction matters. The dollar's share of global reserves has fallen from 72% in 2000 to 57% today. And every single month that this war continues, that share falls a little further because every month more transactions happen in yuan. More countries build systems to bypass dollar-denominated finance. More central banks buy gold instead of US Treasury bonds. The weapon America built to dominate the world, the dollar, is being quietly eroded. And the Tehran toll booth is one of the most effective tools Iran and China have ever found to accelerate that erosion. Not through confrontation, through commerce. Let me now zoom all the way out. Because this toll booth story is not just about shipping, it is about who controls the world in the next 20 years. For the past 50 years, the global order worked like this. America provided military power. That military power guaranteed freedom of navigation in international waters, the Strait of Hormuz, the Suez Canal, the South China Sea, everywhere. In exchange for that guarantee, global trade flowed in dollars. American power and the dollar system were two sides of the same coin. What is happening right now in the Strait of Hormuz is a direct challenge to that model. Iran is saying we provide the guarantee, now we decide who passes, we set the terms, we collect the fee, and we do it in yuan, not dollars. And the extraordinary thing, the thing that should genuinely shake you is that China, India, Malaysia, Egypt, South Korea are all negotiating with Iran to accept those terms. They are not rallying around America. They are calling Tehran. This is the most visible signal yet that the model of American guaranteed global navigation is breaking down. Not everywhere, not overnight, but here in this 21-mile strait right now today, and America's response has been to drop 9,000 bombs, which have not changed the fundamental reality on the water. I want to address one final question, because I know some of you are thinking, if the toll booth is such a problem, why does America not just destroy it? The honest answer has three parts. First, you cannot bomb a system. The toll booth is not a building. It is not a radar installation. It is a process. Ships submit paperwork. Iranian intermediaries check it. Ships receive codes. ERGC vessels escort them. There is no single target that eliminates this. Second, the financial infrastructure is in China. The CIPS transactions, the Chinese maritime services companies, the yuan payment system, all of that is located inside China's sovereign financial architecture. Bombing, that means bombing China. America is not ready to do that. Third, and this is the most uncomfortable truth, every time America strikes Iran, it validates Iran's claim that the Strait needs Iranian protection. Iran's argument to the world is, we are the only power that can guarantee security here. And every American strike that fails to reopen the Strait makes that argument stronger. America has created a situation where the more it fights, the more it justifies the thing it is fighting against. This is a trap. This is a thing I've been explaining for weeks. And the toll booth is the clearest proof yet that America is inside this trap, not outside it. All right, let me just recap what we have covered today. 1. Before the war, 110 ships per day transited the Strait of Hormuz. Today, fewer than 10 per day. A 90% collapse. Nearly 2,000 ships are stranded. 2. Iran has established what Lloyd's List Intelligence, the world's most respected maritime tracking firm, is calling a de facto toll booth regime. Ships submit their details to the IRGC. Geopolitical vetting approved ships get a code and an escort. They pay up to $2 million per transit. 3, the payments are in Chinese yuan, processed through Chinese intermediaries. Running on China's CIPS banking system. CIPS transactions are at record highs this March. 4, the math. 30 ships per day at $2 million is $21 billion per year. Iran's entire military budget is $10 billion per year. The toll booth generates more than double Iran's military budget automatically every year, while America spent $200 billion trying to stop it. 5, America cannot sanction the toll booth without sanctioning Chinese banks, which means starting a financial war with China simultaneously with the military war with Iran. On top of $39 trillion in debt. 6, Iran's parliament is voting this week to make the toll permanent law. And Iran's ceasefire conditions include formal international recognition of sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. 7, oil is at $107 a barrel. That means everything you buy is more expensive. Everything. And as long as this war continues, that does not improve. 8, every transit fee paid in yuan is one more brick in the wall being built against the dollar system. This is the slow erosion of American financial dominance. Not fast, not dramatic, but very real. America dropped 9,000 bombs. Iran built a $100 billion business. Here's the math. Subscribe for more analysis of this war, explained in simple English, and tell me in the comments, do you think America will eventually accept Iran's sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz? Or will this war grind on until one side can no longer sustain it? I want to know what you think. I will see you next week.